Well, it is my pleasure to welcome you all. Good evening. Good evening? Thank you for coming. My name is Mary McKay, and I'm the Vice Provost of Interdisciplinary Initiatives. And on behalf of our Provost, who wished that she could actually attend this evening, and our entire office, we are so happy that you're here. I also want to say hello. I don't know quite where to look, to the back of the room or to the screen, to the people that are on Zoom. And we are so glad that you're here and connected to us at Washington University. So my job is to say some very brief welcome so that you can really hear our featured speaker tonight. As part of my role within the Provost's office, I have the real privilege of leading our Here and Next University Strategic Plan. So this is a 10-year strategic plan for Washington University collectively to lean into its future. And so the talk that you're going to hear tonight from Vicki May really touches incredibly important parts of that strategic plan. So I'm going to talk to you just about the active vision and then make a few connections, and then you'll hear from Vicki. The first is that, institutions of higher ed like ours do some things really well: research, education, patient care. And so the idea behind Here and Next and the strategic plan is that we really mobilize those capacities. We bring them together, and we really think about how do we have Washington University and our St. Louis region become a hub for transformation. Hub that really becomes a hub to come up with new solutions to some of societal's greatest challenges. And we apply those solutions to our region, across the nation and globe. So what you're going to hear tonight is an example of, Vicki, so now I'm going to just get ready because I'm going to talk about you really well, and you're sitting right next to me. You're going to hear about the Institute for School Partnership. You're going to, under Vicki's leadership, it has become a catalyst in its own right for transformation. A true partner coming from a university, but to our schools, to our communities, to really help children thrive in our region. And so that connecting those dots, connecting the best evidence-based practices with communities and forging real collaborative partnerships, those are some of the underpinning of our true kind of ambitions that we elevate this kind of work all across Washington University. I'm going to also tell you that Vicki May is one of the smartest, most talented people I get to work with. She engaged in intensive planning with us, helping us to arrive at some of the core components of Here and Next. So I'm super excited to hear your talk. And then we're going to leave a lot of time for us to interact with Vicki after she's done. And those of you that are on Zoom, find that chat button and make sure that you ask some questions as well, and we'll get you into the conversation. So with that, Vicki, thank you for everything that you do, and take it away.
Well, thank you, and I really appreciate that introduction. As you really spoke to, it's like as we think about a university and our commitments to the community, I am really excited to be here today to kind of talk about one of our big societal problems that we're always trying to be a part of the solution in, and that's really closing our education gap. I know I'd like to thank the Eliot Society for inviting me to do this talk. And I really do hope it's a few minutes of me talking and then several minutes of really having some dialogue around the work and what you're interested in. I have been at the university doing this work for many years. I started with Sally Elgin in '91. And so it's hard to decide which pieces and bits of it to tell. And so I will start and then leave plenty of time for the conversation. As we think about our community and how we can interact with it, I really believe that it's our responsibility to help be part of the solution to these societal challenges. And we all know that strong communities need strong schools. That's a formula that across the nation we see. And so we all feel very strongly about this, and that we really know what to do. Honestly, there's a lot of research out there, and we continue to contribute toward that. But we also know that one of the challenges is really around the implementation. So I like to think about our work in the same way you might think about medicine as having basic research and then translational research. I think we are the translational arm of the education department and the work that we know that goes on around the whole region of translating it into practice and then having practice translate back into research through informing the questions. And I just have to say, I might be one of the most optimistic people in the world, but I know that this is attainable, that we can have equity in our region. St. Louis isn't that big, and we have wonderful things and wonderful stories to tell. And so I'm really always very positive about what we can do together. Our mission is really around collaboration with schools. We know that as a university, we are not able to go in and take over schools. We are not able to have direct impact, but we can be amazing partners and influencers in that work, and that we really want to continue to problem solve so that all of the children, no matter what their zip code, have the same opportunities to have an equitable education that is quality. And we really believe that every student matters. And as we think about the urgency, every minute counts. This is the Institute of School Partnerships started many years ago with one faculty member, and she is on Zoom today as Dr. Sarah Elgin. And so I'd just like to acknowledge her and give her a little applaud there. Sally was a biology professor who believed very strongly in making sure that public schools were successful. She sent her children through the university city school system, and she was working with them on some science fair projects is how this all started, and started working with young children in their elementary schools and said, we as a university should be in this work. We should be partnering. And so what she started from the very beginning is to say, you know, if we really want to be part of the change, we should be forming these partnerships. We started with getting the faculty from high schools in the region together with professors from the university and imagining good things would happen, and some good relationships formed. So we are built on a foundation of relationships and this human-centered approach to the work. After a couple of years, Sally said, Vicki, I think we need more infrastructure. You know, the parties are great, but things aren't getting done in between. So how do we really start building some structures and some programs that will really allow this work to move from relationships and nice conversation to real impact in the schools? So from the very beginning, partnership is in our name. We believe that as a university and the Institute for School Partnership, we bring many things to the table. We have a strong ethic of collaboration and respect for the teachers and the administrators we work with in schools. We have expertise throughout this university and a lot of nice research and frameworks to really make, to add to the value as we go into schools. And most of all, we have a commitment, and we believe not in like short one-time events in schools, but also to build this strong sort of relationship where we can go back and forth and they can reach out to us. We also know that the schools and the districts, they bring a lot to the table. They have their experience, they know their community, the context, all the nuances that you don't know till you're in there for a long time. So if you really want to design programs for long-term impact, you have to do it in partnership. And that honestly, they hold the power. You know, if you think about us as a university trying to make change, we can't. they have to have the agency and the power to be able to make change happen. So we are just coming in as partners with some formulas and some expertise, and honestly, a little more time than they have to do some of this work. Each year, we have a number of different programs that have a broad impact. We have a portfolio of programs. It's mostly focused on forming these research practice partnerships and on building human capital. We know that those are two strategies that work in most of these kind of endeavors, and education's a social enterprise. And so really that building that human capital is one of the best things and best investments. So we, in pretty much annually, this past year, we have worked with educators more than 3,850. I have to look at the number to make sure, get this year right. And then I think 255 schools this past year we were in. We have a number of students that come to campus, and we also count the impact of the teachers, the students from the teachers that we reach. And again, I'll talk a little bit about the work of the faculty that do this work with us also, as well as our staff. So basically, this is our portfolio of programs, and it ranges. We are very much grounded in our roots. Sally was a geneticist, and we started in the biology department, and we do a lot of work with science, technology, engineering, and math. We also have a number of programs that are more macro level in terms of education of our principals and leaders, and really thinking about systems level work. But I'm going to highlight just a few of these today and try to give you a snapshot of the flavor of those. And then as we have time for dialogue, we'll get into more of them if you're interested. MySci is one of our cornerstone programs that started, I think we're in our 17th year. It actually started when it had two different starts. One was Dr. Elgin and several of the faculty members started teaching courses for elementary teachers. And we just looked at what were all the things they were teaching K-5, and how do we help provide some of the content. And we would co-teach that with teachers. And it's been really a wonderful experience that we continue today. It's called the Education 6000 series, and it's through University College. So our teachers, we're trying to figure out, the content is not necessarily graduate level content. If you're teaching about life cycles and the plants and animals. And so Sally always said, if there's a bureaucratic problem, we come up with a bureaucratic answer. And so what we did was really work with the education department to say, what is graduate level education work? And so that really was about beginning to have teachers do action research in their own classroom. So it was the very beginning of our sort of, how do we think about research and practice together and have it implemented in real world experiences. So currently we developed this program, and as we started working with teachers, we realized the professional development was one piece. They needed to learn some content, but we also knew that some of the other barriers of teaching real world science with hands-on things is the stuff. If you really want them to have experiences where they are being able to use materials, teachers are amazing. They will go out and buy their own. They'll drag their children to the grocery store and to the hardware store and get all of their stuff they need to be able to do this work. But it's it takes time away from their expertise, which is thinking about curriculum and instruction. So we started a warehouse of science materials. It's located in University City, and the university gave us a building that has offices in the front, and in the back are these just big warehouses of these big red tubs. And I think we have one of them on our table as you go outside, and the teacher will get those once every quarter, so you get 4 a year, and they have the topics aligned with the science standards for their building. We integrate social studies and language arts. There's books in every one of the kits, and they actually get to use the tools of a scientist and explore science. We always think that we don't want to teach art by having them read about art history when they're that age, but we do want them using the tools of science and investigating and having those experiences. So we started the work with having teachers come in and be our focus group and help us. We now are in about 85 to 90% of the school districts in the region, public schools, charter schools, independent schools, parochial schools. You know, we started, and we've really have never walked out and said, are you interested in my site? We have people coming to us every year. We just added 5 more schools this year. And we have gone to, I guess, 12 rural areas as a pilot to start exploring how we can combine the curriculum, the professional development, and the really thinking about the kit and fulfillment. And I think what is unique in the way we do it is that you don't buy a kit and then it's yours. It's a leasing program, so it always gets sent back to us and gets cleaned up and sent back out to them fresh. We have found that, again, I think one of the most exciting things about the MySci program is that as we look at achievement scores, this past year we got the ones from Ferguson Florissant, and they're all their K-12, the K-5 students, and their 6-8 students took kind of standardized tests that are unique to the district. They're called benchmark testing, and what they showed is that all students learned. So you have students who are in the most struggling students, kind of the middle students, and the highest achieving students all grew. And I just felt like, okay, that is really about the kinds of things you want to do. You don't want to be teaching to the middle student. These are the kinds of programs that the kids can take them and expand. And we are only providing a foundation for the work, and the teachers take it much, much further. But we also have, as you can see from this map, you have Ladue, Clayton, Rockwood using the very same curriculum as St. Louis Public, as Rittner, as University City, as some of our more less resource schools. And as we think about what does equity mean to us, it really is about learning opportunities for all students, and to have all students have access to equitable and rigorous quality kind of materials is something that's very important to us. We also found that sometimes after, I think you all probably have experienced this too, is once you start teaching something, you realize what you don't know. And so the teachers kept coming back to us and saying we'd be really interested in more professional learning opportunities. And so instead of having it with the whole district, we have things like STEM teacher quality in the summer. This was a program that actually we have, we started it with corporate support. We had about 12 different corporations who wanted to do something for teachers and did a focus group about what were the things that would be most impactful. And when they said they wanted to have a summer experience for 2 weeks in the summer and then follow-ups during the year, we had a couple of the corporations come to us and say, they all say that they ranked the people in the region, and you guys were #1, we'd love to have you start a new program for us. So we love our STEM teacher quality program. It's like science camp for teachers in the summer. And instead of having all of the teachers from your district doing professional learning together, this upcoming July, we'll have 20 different districts represented. And just to have that networking opportunity is really fun for them. We start with the theme of sort of STEM is everywhere, and that you start looking at all the things around you and try to find STEM in them. We have a big emphasis on careers, because honestly, kids know sort of like whether they're good at math and science very early, and they start thinking about STEM careers. And so we have kindergarten and first grade teachers who are having kids do their chores, and as they are talking about watering their plants, they talk about them being a botanist. If you are doing something and creating something, you're enforcing that they are acting and thinking like an engineer, and really helping them think about those careers. So a lot of our educators, you spend your life in education, they don't know what all the careers are. So we started going to each of the corporations to learn about careers in science, math, and technology and engineering. And it's amazing. Like, we went to MasterCard, and they had a list, a listing like this on the slide, and they were like, within MasterCard, there was a list of 60 different careers that use STEM. So just trying to open their eyes and to be able to talk about this. Many of our educators in education really only take 1 or 2 classes in science or in math. And so then they're put in a classroom. And so I think continuing education is so important. And these are teachers who give up all their time in the summer to do this. And so they also are very energized by each other and to be in this space. So if you're on campus in July, you're always welcome to visit. Just let me know. We'll have that in, it's always the week right after July 4th. So we also have a math program. It's called Math 314. How many of you would say you're good at math? We have some. How many say not so much so? So I think what happens is very early on, we create a math identity, right? And we have a professor here, Sharita Butler Barnes, who worked with our teachers early on in this program, and really, talks about how do you build math identity. And it's important when the children are very young that they have these experiences in their classrooms where they are able to be given a task. We call them high-level tasks, and it's called Tier 1 instruction. So everybody is given the same task, but it's really, you're able to enter into the problem solving in many different places. So we work with our educators and help them figure out sort of, how do you do differentiated instruction when you have kids at so many different levels in mathematics, and how do you predict who will answer and how they're answered so that you can ask the right question and orchestrate a conversation so that everybody ends up feeling successful. And if you do that, and very talented teachers do that, and they are able to have Tier 1 classrooms where all kids are learning from one another, where they're having conversations and dialogue and doing math talk in ways that are pretty fascinating whenever you walk into the classroom and you see that happening. I always have to pull out and take videos of that. We have our Math 314. It has a number of instructional specialists who actually are in the classrooms in our partner schools a lot. They are there regularly every week. They do coaching, they do lesson study, like where they actually will videotape themselves teaching and share it with their other colleagues. This is a quote from one of our teachers in, in Rittner School District. And she says, my kids are authentically on board. I have the pleasure of watching them grow, challenging their own misconceptions, and use math and education vocabulary to articulate how they arrive at the answer. And she said, sometimes she's so excited, she has to stop and videotape them, and that it's just what she wanted at this time in her career. Sometimes we have people ask, like, why don't you work with teachers before they become teachers? And I just sort of always emphasize, that learning readiness is important. And as you're thinking about the growth trajectory of our teachers, we want them to be lifelong learners. And we really believe in meeting them where they are and also giving them the opportunities to continue to get excited about teaching. Let's see, did I do that right? We also have a program that was not our idea, but was an idea of the leadership at St. Louis Public Schools. They came to us a couple years ago and they said, our principals are really excited about trying to reimagine what school can look like in SLPS. And we would love to create a fellowship where they could come and be learners again and start to think about what is possible and do some dreaming. Sometimes we get in these situations where so often educators feel like people are pointing out what they're doing wrong or what isn't working. But there are many, many bright spots in our St. Louis region and also in SLPS. And so we created a fellowship in which they applied and were able to, there were a number of principals selected, and we went through a design process with them. And they created, one of the principals, Brandon at Carver Elementary, the idea he had was to get sort of a new kind of theme going with their schools, was to create, like, it reminds me of like Hogwarts, where you have all these different houses. And it's just like getting young people wanting to come to school. His attendance is up. The kids are, all have their own t-shirts and they don't want to miss those days whenever they get to do special activities. It just kind of after COVID and the pandemic, I think we found that it takes these extra special things to build excitement and to help build our communities in ways that maybe we didn't even need as much before, that is even more needed around social emotional kinds of supports. So we are continuing. We also used, the Sam Fox has a lot of expertise in design, and some of my best colleagues are friends with the people from the design studio in Stanford and IDEO, and they had wonderful opportunities to be able to work with our professors to be able to actually go through an entire design process 3 times. And so then they are in their 2nd year, and now we just found out at the board meeting that they wanted to invite another cohort. So we'll be starting with another 6 to 7 principals next year, and continue to follow them and see sort of like, this is all hypothetically, we have, hypotheses about what will happen, but we want to collect the data and keep finding if it's working and what is working. One thing I love about being at a university is that we have a staff of about 35, but if you look at the number of faculty who participated last year in our program, we have another 60 to 65. Every time I ask a faculty member if they're available to help with something, it's amazing at Washington University, people say yes. They may be out of town, you may have to schedule around their schedule, but people are here, they're ready, and they want to contribute. So I don't think anybody's as passionate about subjects that they have studied as our faculty. It's amazing. And so, to have that opportunity to bring those real world examples to students and to teachers has been amazing. A few of these pictures we have, this is called the Wonderful World of Plants, where Dr. Verstraete brought students in for that. We had computer science faculty work with a AI camp with a number of students as a pilot last year that will expand this upcoming year. I guess it's on your right at the bottom is Dr. Foston. And Marcus has something that he, tags researcher for a day. And he brings young people in from the community. Usually about this upcoming year, he'll do about 50 students coming through his lab and doing activities. And again, he's one of our professors of color who think it's really important whenever you say researcher for a day, he wants our children that are Black and brown in our community to be able to come and see people that look like them doing research and to really be able to share his expertise. So I think when I started when Mary and I were, introducing this, we said with the here and next, one of the pillars is really about community. And I think Chancellor Martin in this quote, when he says, we must, address the educational inequities in our regions. Our children have better opportunities for the rest of our lives, if we will. And that this foundation is important, and that closing the education gap is not only economically wise, it's a moral imperative. And so I really wanted to kind of end on his call to action. And then one of the other people that are in advancement, it just reminded me of the video that we have on our website. And I just thought it would be great to also get some of those community voices in the room. So there's just a 3-minute video, maybe 2-minute video that I wanted to show also. The Institute for School Partnership is Washington University's signature program to connect the resources of the university with the local K-12 schools to inspire students and to empower teachers.
Our partnership with K-12 schools started in the late 1980s. I've been doing some volunteering in my children's schools in U City, and it was clear that the teachers were interested in doing more active science curriculum, more hands-on science. But there were a lot of limitations that they were struggling with. And by establishing a partnership, we could provide some support, materials, volunteers, guest speakers, this sort of thing.
University City School District has had a partnership with Washington University Institute for School Partnership for nearly 30 years. Without a doubt, the Institute for School Partnership has given more of our teachers confidence than any one person at central office could give.
Teachers have the confidence that they need. They're more willing to take risks. So the ISP partnership definitely provides that confidence and that support so that we can unleash the potential of our teachers.
You can have the most well-prepared, sophisticated teacher in the world. If they don't have the materials to do hands-on science with their kids, they won't achieve what they want. It's got to be done together, and that is the essence of the support we are trying to provide.
When those red kits and tubs are delivered to the school, the kids want to just run and grab hold of those science things. They love to actually use the tools of a scientist.
Yearly, we inspire and equip about 2,500 teachers and 400 administrators to become STEM leaders in their schools. We've seen an increase in math and science teaching and learning in the region, higher standardized test scores, significant growth in teacher confidence and retention, and dramatic growth in student self-confidence.
Today, more than ever, we need to prepare young people to be problem solvers, thinkers, team players, all those attributes that lead to a possible career in STEM.
We are working to make sure that all of our young people, regardless of their economic status, have access to rigor and quality curriculum.
I believe it's important for St. Louis to support ISP because of its comprehensive ability to deliver top quality educational programs to all of our schools, to make sure that all of the kids of the region have equal opportunity to be able to participate in the economy of the future.
The Institute for School Partnership isn't delivering a product, it's delivering a way of thinking.
At WashU, we're committed to educating the people of our region beyond just those students enrolled in programs on our campuses. We aren't just Washington University in St. Louis, we are Washington University for St. Louis.
So with that, I would love to turn it over to have a dialogue. We just have some time for some questions. I'd love to hear sort of some of your thoughts and your questions. On the screen, I think, is myself, one of my associate directors, Nikki Dowdy, and Beth Herzog, Herzig, I never say your name right, Beth, I'm so sorry. Who's with us today and has been a wonderful partner and advancement working with us. So excited to hear your questions.
Wonderful. So please, there's a microphone that will come to you. And Vicki, I have a couple of pre-populated questions too that came in ahead of time, but we're going to begin with your question, please.
Can you hear me okay? Mm-hmm. I have 3 questions. Number 1, are you integrating it all with the FIRST robotics? Number 2, what data have you gathered long-term with the students that have gone through these programs to find out where they are now? And number 3, are the teachers receiving any type of CEUs or any type of accreditation to help them advance in their own career?
So I'll start with the third question first. So it was like, are the teachers receiving CFUs or kind of credits? And absolutely. So we have a number of different ways of being able, even within a single program, we are able to work with university college to really be able to make it part of a certificate program, part of a master's program, or to do just their local credits for their district. In terms of the robotics program, we do partner. Again, I think one of the things that's always challenging within St. Louis region is to make sure we don't duplicate efforts. And honestly, Steve Coxon at Maryville does amazing summer camps for teachers and students within robotics. And so what we do is help support some of those materials, and we have them for loaners at our warehouse facility to work with him on that. But he has a machine and just is pretty amazing with that program. So I think it's again making our schools aware of it is the best thing we can do on that. And the second question was around
Outcomes.
Data. Yeah. So I think we do a great job at looking at data short term. So like if we're working with the district and I see Jason Jabari in the audience, he has helped us with some of our data over the past couple years as part of the Policy Institute and pairing with him. So we can get, if a school is involved in a 3-year program and we look at change, sort of impact over time of the programs, I think we've been doing a lot better and continue to look at how do we look at the impact of that program. We are also able to, as we think of something like My Site, where a school might have used it for 10 years, and we can look at their 5th grade benchmark and their standardized test and see that those are correlated and that we see growth and that they are predictive. What I think we would love to do is to be able to think more about, as we build our data systems out in the future, how do we better track students over time? I'd love to know, like we're able to see that teachers teach more science in St. Louis since we've done the My Site program, and it's more than the national average. So as we think about things like our talent pool and our workforce development, are we seeing that a change in that? And it's really difficult to do that tracking over time. And as we think about student mobility, can we get our data systems better aligned to be able to use the state, the code for the student to follow them as they move from school to school, and be able to compare that also with our public health data and other databases. So it's an area of growth that I'd love to continue to push on.
Beautiful. So there's a question all the way in the back.
I don't need a mic, I don't think. Maybe I do.
That's right. Just so the people online can hear you. Thank you.
Hello, testing. Okay. Once I get a hold of a mic, I have a death grip on it. I may not give it up. I'm Bill Morris. I'm on the A&S National Council, and a few of you who know me in this room know I don't know much, but I have one comment and only 2 questions. That's my limit. My one comment is I think that enough people don't know what ISP is doing here. You're to be incredibly commended for all the work you're doing. I've met with Nikki Doty before, and really was impressed by her, of course, and what she was able to tell me you guys do. But you're really, I think, a round of applause from this exclusive audience would be a good idea. But more than that, just our adoration and thanks for the work you guys are dedicated. You're doing wonderful work, but there's more to do. My 2 questions are, one, you talked about finding bureaucratic solutions for bureaucratic problems and, yada, yada, yada. One, what I'm not sure if it's a administrative problem or a bureaucratic problem, but the fact that I was told a few years ago that there are 78 separate municipalities in St. Louis, and I don't know how many school districts, but some standardization of education and some merging, or I know that's difficult. That's almost as politically incorrect as trying to merge municipalities or police departments. But a merging of educational and school districts would be a great start. And I don't know what the national trend is here, but I think it's probably happening other places. And I would say that that's got to be an impediment to success, because K through 12 education in this country has been doing a pretty poor job for the last 100 years or so. And I don't see it personally improving, although I'm a doctor and what do I know? So that's the first thing is, can it be something that ISP is interested in taking your work and kind of trying to parlay that, or work on collaborations to enlighten people, if you agree, that will bring the school districts together, and which would be a big step in the right direction, I think. But again, I don't know much. Number 2, the work that you're doing is incredible, especially working with teachers. I think teachers don't get enough respect, especially K through 12 in this country. They don't get paid enough. They don't attract enough people who want to put up with the abuse. My daughter been a high school English teacher for 20 years, so she has informed me of some of the problems. But my point is, I've talked to several people here at WashU. The work you're doing in education and in teaching teachers is wonderful, but not only can you use your expertise to improve STEM education, and I know a little bit about that in St. Louis, but what do you all feel about expanding your work in partnership with the education department, for instance, to develop a school of education that would really try to make a difference? In other words, would that be an important step that could really impact not only education in St. Louis, but certainly in the country? Because education is the foundation of everything. We know our society, our country, our world, and even climate change. So, what do you think about that? Okay, sorry, that's all I have to say.
Well, first of all, thank you for your comment. I really appreciate that. And I do think, again, sometimes I think Sally would agree with me. One of the things that we are definitely guilty of is putting our heads down and doing the work, and sometimes forgetting to tell the story. So thank you for these kind of opportunities to more broadly tell the story of the impact, and also sort of the way that it's really impacting our region and our communities. When I think about the municipalities, I think I was looking at trying to collect the districts, and then I think we got up to 64 different districts in our database that we worked with this year, and that's not the private and charter and parochial schools. And so it is a real challenge in our region to be able to think about that every time somebody moves, you're building those relationships again and again and again. And it's why one of the reasons I feel strongly that I just encourage anyone before they go and reach out to a school that they come talk to us, because you build those relationships and then they move, and then you have a new person trying to go and meet with Normandy superintendent, because they're new. And it's sort of like, well, yes, but if we have 8 people reaching out to him, can we do it together, right? Can we as a region? So I think, how do we navigate that is the reality is step one is to do it more collectively and allow us to be involved and be a resource to people whenever they are wanting to do that. I do think, again, one of the things we try to do is maybe like around the My Side curriculum, we bring all those schools together so that there's some uniformity in the quality of the work they're doing in science, K through 5, in mathematics, the curriculum materials they're using, bringing all those people. We have user conference and unconferences and things like that, where there get to be more uniformity across the districts. I'm often reminded that my lane is little p and not big P when you're talking about policy and educational change. And so I can work within the districts and across that in terms of really trying to think about how we as a region want to try to to consolidate things. I feel like that's a little bit above the ISP, and I would always love those conversations if we decide to be part of those. In terms of schools of education, I feel like we at Washington University have some amazing niches and amazing things to bring to the educational community. I do feel like that the the Department of Education is really doing amazing work to do in this kind of basic research area, and I'd love to partner with them to translate that. We do have a number of schools in the region that are training most of our teachers. And both UM St. Louis and Harris Stowe are doing that. And so I really feel like as we're thinking about where do we put our time and energy and what do we build, I really would love to see us, again, not always try to be the lead on everything, but to do collaborative work in ways that we are jointly teaching some classes as we move forward, and as we're doing some research practice partnerships that are regional, we are all doing it as teams together. And I think one of the things in St. Louis, everyone wants to collaborate theoretically, but to actually find the time to get in the room and do that hard work and to take the time, sometimes it's challenging. So I just think we're in that wonderful place where it might be possible now that there's such a teacher shortage and we're trying to rethink teacher education. I think getting the region collectively together and say, how do we support one another? We, at the university, we have a program that we partner with the St. Louis Teacher Residency Program. So a lot of this is like if you got your degree and you decided you wanted to teach, like you have your college degree, you can get certified and get a master's in 2 years. Or if you are we're finding that people who have been teacher aides in schools and they couldn't afford to go back to school, they go through the teacher residency program where the first year you get paid in the school district to do an internship and a mentorship while you're getting certified, and you get paid and get benefits. And then the second year you get your own classroom. And through University College, we have a Master's of Arts in Teaching and Learning. And we have people going through that program and getting certified plus a master's in 2 years. And that's attracting 50 to 60 to 70 teachers every year into our region from other places in the country.
So Vicki, I know that this time is short, and so I'm going to ask a couple of the other questions that are coming, and it'll be like a lightning round, okay? And so one of the things that we wanted to be sure we let this group know is that ISP, it's really very, very important that you think about your Eliot Gifts as really supporting some of the work at ISP. What are some of your most pressing needs as you think about expansion opportunities or out in the community when you think about we could do a better job if we could expand or collaborate in different ways? Tell me about some of those pressing needs that you need for support, for expansion, for making greater impact.
Well, I think it is tied to one of the things is tied to that question around data.
Yeah.
And so as we're thinking about data and how do we as a university start collaborating through the departments and thinking about data collection and showing the impact, we have a small staff that has a director of research and a director of evaluation, but really trying to build up a robust system where we can track students over time. That's something I really would love that. I think it would be a really important growth area for the ISP and for the university as a whole, is to be able to measure our impact better. I also think this idea of convening people, the question you ask about, we aren't, I don't think I can make everybody one district, but the more we convene and align, we're not duplicating efforts and we're able to have collective wisdom. And just to convene people takes often paying for substitutes and to bring them on campus. It's not just like you open your doors and they're here, right? It's paying substitutes and being able to design those convenings in really important ways. I also honestly, we laugh about this, but Nicole and I have been talking about, like, we just need a yes fund, a yes fund, because you're out there in the community, and like during the pandemic, whenever you would see the needs for Chromebooks and computers, we just went out there like trying to help meet some of those needs very quickly. So sometimes the things that you are going to need 1 year is not predictable, and I don't know, but then when you're out in the community and you see these dire needs, it's really helpful to be able to meet those. So that's why we appreciate our gifts from really generous donors who are able to say, it doesn't have to be for one program, but just tell me what you did with our money. We have this one person who said, we just want to see young people out in nature and take some pictures. And so we took a bunch of the students out to Tyson to our field science program, and we have pictures of them holding the frogs, and those sorts of things. And those kind of experiences, some of our city students just do not get. And so.
Beautiful. I want to be sure, everybody online, are there any questions in the chat? I know they're still there because this has been incredibly informative. And so, the last question, Vicki, has to do with what are you most excited about in terms of the future of ISP? Where are you growing into? And then I'll ask very specifically from my vantage point, how can we help ISP play a much more prominent role in this kind of research to practice partnership? Just anything about the future that you want to end us on?
Well, I just do think that the stars do feel like they're aligned. We have a chancellor who is an advocate for this work and really having a call to action for it. We have so many needs in our community, and we have this wonderful sort of vice president of interdisciplinary initiatives who is saying, let's not do it separately. Let's get the people who are doing this in a room together, and let's figure out how we can have more impact. And so sometimes I have felt like I am a lone ranger over here, and then they let me stay at the university and do this work, and I feel privileged. And now I don't feel that. I feel like we are sort of like, let's figure out how we can take this kind of work and add value to it so that we can have a much stronger impact. And so I guess I'm like starting my 40th year here, and it's the most exciting year. So I think.
Well, I would agree. You should know, those of you that care about and center children and them thriving in our region, children and the adults that raise them are very much centered in that community pillar. And how we actually use our assets, our resources, our research, our education to really help children and families thrive in our region, incredibly important to our university strategic plan. So with that, can I ask you to give a huge round of applause to an amazing leader at Washington University. Vicki, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for being here tonight and for being such unbelievable champions for Washington University, and in particular for ISP. Thank you all very, very much. And Vicki, you'll stay around for a moment to talk to your fans, I hope. Thank you. Thank you.